Welcome to the Mise-en-Scene Weekly podcast, where we harken back to our college debate days and pick two movies of the same theme to clash like the Franco-Spanish War of the 1600s. This week's episode is focused on movies that we have never seen before. With Incendies standing tall in the squared circle against women on the verge of a nervous breakdown, come join Jonathan and Stephen for another week of desirably less plot chatter and hopefully more film banter. We are Scene Weekly, and welcome to our world.
Again, we are questioning everything.
We're trying to build a world that you are alleging, so I don't know if we have the world yet, but it's being built, and we're doing our best.
It is being built, we're doing our best, and we're building it with vibrant colors.
Like Pedro Almodovar.
Oh, Lord Pedro. So you've never seen any Pedro films before?
I have seen a few of his films. Okay. I haven't seen all of them. I actually went through his list. He has quite a lot. His repertoire, if you will, is vast. But I have seen, I think I saw All About My Mother first and went to Voltaire, and then pretty much went to the very beginning, Dark Habits eventually, and then pretty much just watched almost everything. Matador, which is, have you seen You haven't seen Matador.
No,
Matador is fantastic, but big fan of Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. Pedro happens to be my favorite director of all time, and it was an enjoyable week, to say the least, and we were trying to get back to, finally, your film roots, and I guess I don't have film roots, to say the least, but I do have an English background, but I do like films and cinema, and getting back and away from The Rock and Con Air felt better this week.
Well, those are fun films to watch and digest.
They're easy to digest. They're like digestible cookies,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Some may say it's like orange juice in the morning.
Yeah, this is a little bit more of a very flavorful gazpacho.
Ooh, look at that. I see what you did. It's both colorful and pertinent to the actual film itself.
Yeah, minus the barbiturates, but
yeah,
into that
25 to 30.
But yeah, so this week we decided to choose each of us giving the films, kind of like my original idea of this podcast.
Yeah, so you must love this week.
This week was great. I got to give you a film that you've never seen, that I have seen. And you gave me a film that you've seen many times and is one of your favorites. So
how would you feel if I just lied to you and said that I actually hadn't seen Incendies, but I did?
I would feel betrayed.
You feel betrayed?
Yeah.
Our world would crumble?
It might.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We're just building a world and it's now crumbling.
Yeah. We just gotta trust each other, Jonathan.
Do you like cookies that crumble, like the harder cookies, or do you like the soft batch ones or the soft batch type?
I like cookies.
Or both.
Well, that's a good question. So I like cookies fresh out of the oven that are gooey, right?
Okay.
But there is a time and a place for, the more...
Was it Mrs. Tate's? Is that what it is?
Mrs. Tate's is pretty good.
Have you had those?
I recently, yes, very recently.
like this morning?
Not this morning, no. Probably about a week ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think I've had a Mrs. Tate maybe about 2 weeks ago, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Oreos. Oreos were my jam growing up.
Do you dunk them in the milk? Or
I don't. No, that's a
don't?
messy way of doing it.
Do you just leave it in there and let it soak and then eat it with a spoon?
Absolutely not. No, I'm not looking for cereal.
Do you twist it off, lick, and then stick it back on, or you just eat it?
That's stuff you do as a kid, man. No, what you do. This is what I tell you. You get the double stuff Oreo.
Double stuff. Okay.
Stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And you just take a bite and then you drink the milk and you let it kind of sit in there for a second, and then you eat it.
That's
interesting. You drink some more milk.
That's interesting because you're effectively doing the same thing as if you just had a glass of milk and dunking it. And then also that milk itself, when you drink it at the end, it has that essence of the cookie.
It has that essence in my mouth with the Oreo. This is true.
Fair point. How long do you keep it in your mouth?
It just depends. It's always like
this is a 8-second type of day, and then like sometimes it's a 3-second type of day.
It's kind of like with wine, like how you have like a mouthfeel for certain things. You have that with the Oreo.
Oreos, Nabisco, let us know. Sponsor your boy Stephen Rankin. We are here for any sponsorships.
Give nothing but praise for Oreos.
Double stuff, just to be clear.
They're vegan too.
They're vegan?
Yeah, they're vegan.
I don't know what that means. What is that cream made out of? Non-cream, evidently. Do you know how they say like Twinkies last forever or whatever it might be? I don't think that's true, first of all. But nonetheless, maybe your Oreos do as well.
Do you know what the original filling of Twinkies were?
I do not. No.
And why they changed it?
No.
Yeah, this is a fact that I learned a while ago. That the original filling of Twinkies was banana cream.
Ooh.
Yeah. But once World War II
that doesn't sound great.
hit, there was like a shortage on something.
On bananas?
I think so.
Yeah.
And so they had to kind of reduce that and just put the cream in there.
That's interesting. Do you have they made a banana cream Twinkie since?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
I think they should do like a World War II, like back in the day Twinkie.
I agree.
Like, I mean, I don't know how much a banana cream Twinkie or how well it would taste, but good it would taste. Anyway, we're getting off topic immediately, but yes. Nonetheless, I like the digressions here. But I love this week. We're back to our actual desire of having a film podcast, and it's very fun, even though the movies are extremely different.
They couldn't be more different, I feel like. they fall into a category, which is funny enough, that we didn't plan this, but they're both foreign language films by directors that are basically being announced on the scene. Like they've had films prior to this, but this is their kind of big jumping off point. They both got nominated for foreign film Oscars.
Yeah,
they did not win, but these are two really great foreign film movies that are completely different.
French director, Spanish director, hence the Franco-Spanish War of the 1600s, which I don't know much about or anything about, frankly.
I believe Denis is Canadian.
He is Canadian?
Yeah, he's Canadian.
Well, is he Canadian to the extent that he's from Montreal?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say he's French then.
Okay.
Yeah, French-Canadian. I mean, that's they don't say Canadian-French, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I think it's just your ancestry comes first.
What happened during that Franco-Spanish War? Is that why you did the... Oh, I see it now.
Oh, you get it. There we go. That's pretty clear and abundantly clear, I thought.
Took me a minute.
Yeah, it took us 6 recordings of this and me repeating it. Oh, there we are. So, why don't we get into it? We're in South Florida again, Delray Beach, if you need to know.
Pineapple Grove. This is the neighborhood.
Evidently, that's what I've been told. You just learned.
I haven't seen any pineapples.
Have you been looking?
I have.
On Candy Crush?
I had a pineapple for breakfast this morning.
Did you?
Yeah, it
interesting.
Was in my fruit cup.
Oh, the fruit cup that I so delightfully got for you. Anyway,
it's great.
So, Incendies, we have women on the verge of a nervous breakdown, but I would love to get into it first and try to break down as best we can the themes, because
I'll kind of dive into why I chose this movie.
Dive.
So, with Denis, he just released a monumental blockbuster in Dune 2. I've read Dune, the book. I've seen the first movie. I've seen some of his other movies like Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. And a few months ago, I wanted to kind of get into his earlier filmography. And this is one that was very highly praised. And I watched it. And it was a tough watch, but I was like, gosh, I want Jonathan to see this movie. So when we had
I want him to feel miserable like I did.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Movies, we've talked about this, movies that you see once and you never want to see again. I wouldn't consider this one of them, like a Requiem for a Dream or Grave of the Fireflies, but this is it's up there with a movie that I could take some time off and before rewatching it again, I'll tell you that. But I like the themes. It's it reminded me a lot of, but for different purposes, but like having a bit of a twist ending.
Yeah.
That I wasn't expecting at all. And it reminded me a bit of an Old Boy type feel where there's a smack in the face, but a very big hand.
A very big hand. Yeah.
Like that. Very big. I don't want to say it came out of it came out of nowhere. Yeah. You were just like wandering down the street and which happened to me in New York City, actually. Where there was a boy on a bike with 14 of his friends, and he was a overweight human being and decided that he wanted to, I guess, film me. I don't even know at this point. It might be on TikTok somewhere. But as he's strolling by with his friends, he slapped him.
That's what he said?
And slapped me in the face, yeah. I still think it's hilarious.
I hope there's a video out of that.
Yeah, I would actually like to see it.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. All right, and then
Did you provoke these gentlemen? Or?
If provocation happened with me standing on a curb, then yes, I would have provoked that individual. But I don't think so.
Okay,
and it maybe by just my look of annoyance. Maybe I did. So let's get into it.
Sure.
Incendies, 130 minutes. You can say the guy's name.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, you sounded. This is our sixth time recording this, so that sounded better the sixth time. Year 2010. So again, this is prior to, I'd say, really the breakout. I would be. Is it his first nomination?
I believe so. Yeah.
I don't know actually. Should have probably looked that up beforehand. Rated R. It's a drama. 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. 8.3 on IMDb. The budget was $6.5 million, and it made $16 million on the box office, of which did pretty well because this is a fairly intense movie. And if you saw the trailer, which was an interesting one, but if you're into dramas that are intense, then I would imagine 16 million is actually pretty good for a movie like this.
With a little bit of Radiohead creeping in the background.
That's very fascinating that you say that, because that's one of my, I love movies that repeat or have a theme song, even though it's not a theme song. Like the Batman did that with Nirvana, and recently, and it's funny because I actually, 8 years ago, I have a notebook that says Nirvana, like that song would be fantastic in a movie, and
lo and behold,
just got ripped from me. This is why you should never write things down. Just keep them in your head if you can ever remember them. But nonetheless, I love the fact of the theme being repeated with Radiohead throughout the entire movie, and one which made my enjoyment of the movie more intense, I would say. But nonetheless, let's get into the actual synopsis. So Nawal, I'm pronouncing the names probably incorrectly here, is a dying Middle Eastern woman living in Montreal. She leaves separate letters to her twin children to be read once she passes away. And Jen is to deliver hers to the father the twins never knew, and Simon is to give his to the brother they never knew they had. The siblings travel to the Middle East separately, where they each experience acts of brutality, to say the least, and uncover a startling family history and have revelations about themselves. And boy, is all of that light when you read it, and then when you watch the movie, it's like, yeah, that was a bit of a revelation, because revelatory.
You're getting the flashbacks throughout and the scenes of Nawal's young adulthood and how she came to be and how her family came to be and didn't come to be, and it was she led a very intense life that her children had no idea.
Yeah, they for at least I'm kind of extrapolating from what the movie shows, but they have an interesting development and interaction with their mother throughout the years, it appears, and one in which there's definitely a disconnect between them, not only being raised, but just in life and then also in death. And when it comes down to it, the scene at the very beginning is basically the mother in a pool being concerned that well, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but she's concerned about something, and she notices something next to the pool, and that was kind of the moment of the downfall, and kind of almost a feeling of, I can now pretty much pass away almost. It was an interesting moment, but she had a stroke, and it was like kind of this moment where her body was like, all right, we're checking out.
Done.
This is it. I've fulfilled what I think I needed to do. I've lived a tough life, and this is it.
Yeah.
Punch card is being placed in the puncher.
But she had plans.
She did have plans, and so therefore she left these letters, which her employer, because she was a secretary, her employer is actually a lawyer, is providing these letters to her two twins, children, and they have to do a maniacal task of basically learning about their upbringing to some extent, and more importantly, her background.
Yeah.
And I just got to ask you, I mean, I'm getting well ahead of myself, but it's an interesting endeavor, to say the least, in the sense of, there may have been an easier way to provide them answers, but I understand that, like, how would you deal with the sense of like what she has been through and trying to convey to her children, how they were created, more or less, and who helped in that endeavor?
I feel like she lived her life when we don't get to see how the twins were raised.
Yeah.
But what we can glean from it is especially from the son, because these are fraternal.
They're fraternal.
Yeah, fraternal twins. Yeah. The son had a very contentious relationship with his mother.
Yeah.
He felt that she was very distant, crazy, kind of, didn't make sense all the time.
Yeah.
Didn't really understand. She never got. Nawal never gave her children answers when she was alive.
And even in death, I mean, she wanted to be buried face down with her butt.
No gravestone. Yeah.
And of course, when we realized that early on in the movie, Simon's like, "Fuck this, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. Like, my mother is just crazy and doing more crazy things." But eventually, he is convinced, and they do go and travel to try to find the roots, of which Jan, I don't know, I can't remember.
Jan.
She, it's first surrounding kind of her story and just traveling to where her mother is from and not having much success trying to find it, find any answers, I should say. And also the individuals she's meeting who either know her directly or know of her are repelling. Is a clear repellent. And they don't even want to talk to her. And basically she is kind of the manifestation of her mother. And like they're literally treating like her mother as the daughter. Yeah. One and the same. So she's not getting any answers immediately off the bat.
I was very surprised, especially at that scene where the older ladies just rejected her and said, we want nothing to do with you.
Isn't that shocking? I was actually very shocked.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't actually seen much of that. Like, whatever that person did clearly would have to be a magnitude much greater than the actual events, in my opinion. But, like, I don't know. Maybe the culture there is, like, you're dead, so every, like, offspring is also dead to me.
She has to live with the sins of her mother.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's really sad. I mean, I guess if you're a Manson, like, daughter, son, maybe you get that because you can have schizophrenia in your family. I don't know. It was tough. It was a tough watch. But eventually, she finds answers, and they have to travel. But there is a particular moment which is very telling, and I didn't really understand it at the moment. But at the very beginning of the film, where they're tattooing 3 dots on a child's looks like a son's foot.
His like ankle or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at the time because I believe he was an orphan, and so in the moment I didn't know it was an orphanage. I was like, is he going to war right now?
They were shaving his head.
Yeah. I was like, what's happening right now? But for some silly reason, I thought he was going to war as a child. Well, then later I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely went to an orphanage. That orphanage burned to the ground.
It did.
So Gian was not getting any answers on anything, trying to find this brother of hers. And, she has to trek down and learn the hard way. And it's tough.
And speaking about trekking, so the mother, it flashes back, and it's so interesting because of the characters, the actors or actresses, like the mother and the daughter, who are clearly different people and are not related in real life. Sometimes I was confused at who was who, and I was like, they look so similar to me. And sometimes, like, when it would flash back or forward, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I was like, oh wait, this is the daughter and this is the mother. And I was like, this is interesting.
I had that same feeling.
The Middle Eastern vibes were like very strong when she was, when they're in Canada, it was different. But like, it's fascinating in that turn, which they did really well. But I wanted to highlight one scene, which was just shocking, but also the bus scene.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So she gets a ride with a variety of Muslims.
Nawal.
The mother gets a ride on a Muslim bus.
But she hides something before she gets on the bus.
She does hide something. She hides a cross. And the bus gets stopped, and eventually the individuals that stop the bus, who are Christians, basically are lighting the bus on fire or attempting to, and they've effectively killed everyone in the bus except the mother, Nawal, and another mother and her daughter. And so they're able to get off the bus. She says she's a Christian. She holds up the cross. Yeah. And basically she takes the mother's kid just to try to save, which is admirable. But the second, they eventually shoot the other mother, and which is, God, it was awful. And the child who, after that happens, decides to flee Nawal and run back to her mother, and she eventually gets shot. And that was like
That was heartbreaking. That was brutal.
awful, just completely awful.
And it was interesting, like just seeing that division, obviously, of religion in that area, but like
Yeah.
the Christians committing these crimes too, and not
Yeah.
having any sympathy for life or death, and it's like it's just very, very hard to watch.
It was hard, and I guess I should clarify the reason that she was there to begin with in this war-torn. She was looking for her lost son, and so she actually purposely went from no war environment to complete war environment to find her long lost son, and that's why she was on that bus to begin with. But scary moment, but eventually she gets I would say a little, not a little, she gets a lot disillusioned.
Yeah.
She joins the radical organization, eventually gets 14 years, I believe, or 15 years in the penitentiary for shooting
She
shooting a man.
She plays a very long game and becomes a teacher or a tutor for a very high-ranking official in the the regime that she's fighting against. But she's going undercover, and she plays this long game. Then one day, she just very cold, just walks outside, shoots the leader, and she gets 15 years in a solitary confinement.
Very, very, very solitary confinement.
That scene where she's just pacing.
Oh God,
it's hard.
It's terrible, and she eventually, more or less, kind of loses her mind in there, as you might imagine everyone probably would. And then she begins to sing. So she gets known as the woman who sings.
The woman who sings. And
that was so cool. And everyone in the entire, all the characters in the movie itself, like pretty much knew her as the woman who sings.
And the sound design that's going on in that prison, where you hear people, like women who are just agonizing in pain. You don't see them, you just hear them. But Nawal, the way that she can protest against that is just by singing, and not giving any kind of feeling to the people that are keeping her prisoner.
It's a stark contrast.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but it's a very stark contrast. It was just I don't know. It became. I don't even say depressing, but it was just like a little eye-opening and shocking, and kind of just rooted you in the idea of war and like what it would actually look like, in just a very matter-of-fact kind of way, though. But yeah, so she has a lot of tribulations. She gets raped by a man in jail, but eventually gets
she served her time.
Gets let go, but she got pregnant by the man, and she had to give up her kids, and don't know yet, but allegedly somebody's going to be taking care of her kids, and those two kids eventually are the twins,
Simone and
Jean, so those are the twins. Simon. And basically she kind of at the beginning of those letters, she wanted to understand, for her children to understand where she came from.
Another kind of heartbreaking scene was the twins were about to be just flushed down the river.
Yes, and the woman, I can't remember her name, was talking to the guard and was like, "You've done your job. You've taken them to the river. You're never going to see the kids again," basically. So, and he's like, "Okay," and that was that. That was also a like a heartbreaking scene of like the potential. It's like, all right, one kid has already been shot. Like, I may have to turn this off. Like, if these kids don't make this.
Yeah.
It's tough. It was a tough watch, but I enjoyed it thoroughly. And I have a quote highlight, but I didn't really understand it until it was repeated a lot.
Yeah.
The 1 + 1 = 1. And I was like, I don't know what this is about. And then I was like, oh, 1 + 1. Oh, I get it. And so, I mean, we might as well just get to the actual point.
We'll just let you know, if you've not seen this movie, stop right here, because there will be spoilers. Spoilers.
This
Spoilers.
entire podcast is a plotcast of spoilers. So there it is. And so the answers really unravel, and that 1+1=1 is really the children are understanding that the man who raped the mother in jail is actually her first son, and the son impregnated his mother, and the two twins are their children.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the movie, basically, we realize this as the envelope, separate envelope for the
father and the brother.
Yep. Gets delivered, and he then realizes that he also has two children with his mother. I'm not a science person, but I was thinking that seems like these people, in terms of an incestuous relationship, shouldn't they be challenged more?
You know, I don't know the intricacies of all of that. Apparently, I did read an article that there's more incest in the world than we realize.
Is that your upbringing?
Not mine.
No?
Not that I know of. I have all 10 digits.
Oh,
here.
I thought you were just saying like that's, it's more common than you think. Wink, wink.
No.
Oh no.
I'm trying to.
Got it.
But this ending and this kind of reveal, I was not expecting.
No.
I was kind of thinking, oh, okay, so their father is the man that raped their mother in prison. Like that's kind of how it's going to go. But like, what's this other letter kind of for? And then you if you do kind of rewatch the movie, you kind of see that opening scene. Radiohead's playing, shaving. The kid became an orphan, and then he became a child soldier. Then he became the best sniper in the regime.
Yeah.
And then he became the torturer of the prison. And that's how their paths crossed.
And just a weird path to cross, to be honest. It's and it's just difficult. But I did even in the totality, you should probably put your phone away. Even in the totality of everything, I think that it made sense at the end the way she did it, and I did appreciate it. It was pretty fun.
I thought the letters were amazing.
What did you think was in the envelope at the beginning? And what did you think about the envelope at the end for the older son?
I thought it was brilliant.
I no, what did you think? Like, I guess originally, what did you think were going to be in the envelopes? That's a better question.
I had no idea.
Me neither. Yeah, I had no clue.
Golden ticket?
You got the golden ticket. You're incest twins. Doesn't sound like a golden ticket to me.
No, it doesn't.
Again, I mean, maybe your upbringing is different than mine. But
it's ridiculous. But I will say the way that she structured and wrote the letters to her son and also to the rapist.
Yeah.
With such different compassion behind
love.
It.
She still loves her son. Yeah. Whew. I just it's terrible. It's interesting because she in the letter she said I recognized you, but you didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
She saw those three little dots on his his ankle.
Wow. And then she eventually in the pool at the very beginning of the movie, the three dots were on a person standing outside of the pool, and that's when she had that stroke, and she realized he was still alive. And boy, there was one quote though, the last one here. It's "Death is never the end of the story," that I thought was terrific.
That's one of my quotes too.
Yeah. The 1+1=1 was super interesting, made a lot of sense in the moment. But death is never the end of the story is about as eloquent and encapsulating of a quote that you could possibly get for this movie.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting too, like as children, we don't know exactly everything that obviously went on in our parents' lives.
Yeah. We
don't know their story to a T. We don't know what happened, what struggles they had, what we can only kind of glean from what they've told us or what we know and stuff like that. And it's very interesting seeing it from that perspective of them finding out a revelation about their mother and what she went through, and they had no idea. They could not even imagine their mother spending 15 years in a solitary confinement cell. Like,
it's tough. I think, I don't know, for some reason it was a tough watch, but I got to the end, which I don't know, maybe for some people it was like tougher to watch the end, but to me it was like, oh, this makes sense. Because throughout the movie I was like, this is like goddamn like I don't know, like this weird treasure hunt happening around the world, and they're all just the
They're
kids are
getting notaries
upset.
involved,
And
yeah. the kid has to talk to a warlord, an
Like-
old warlord.
Yeah, like with a blindfold on, and then he's like, "Oh, like I understand what's happening." He takes the blindfold off, and they get more details. But at that moment, you could probably understand. All right, some shit's about some like my mom went through some stuff. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what, but a good movie. No, I think it was a great movie. Honestly, I think it's going to take some time to rewatch it. But
Some
considering
things,
I don't like kids to be murdered in
yeah.
film, but
Some things that
war, I guess.
I took away from kind of the themes of it. The title of the movie, Incendies,
Yeah.
which means fire.
Yeah.
And this movie is filled with that, but it's also filled with water. A lot of scenes by the pool, a lot of
And underwater, yeah.
and underwater,
Yeah.
and the twins were about to be murdered in a river. And all of these themes with fire and water and the dichotomy between that, but what can result in that as well.
It reminds me of another quote where it's in the South, one spark sets everything off, and I was like, that's this movie,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But a terrific movie overall. Again, it's going to take some time for me to watch it, but big fan.
Yeah, and once the children deliver the letters and everything is revealed, she does want a gravestone. She does want head rights.
And the son, the older son, actually at the end of the movie actually goes to her gravestone to visit, which is, I don't know, it's interesting.
So he had to take a journey of discovery. And that was the.
Could you imagine? Because you're already a terrible person by raping a person.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I'm not a terrible person. At least I don't think so. I hope
you're pretty terrible. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, wow. What a transition at the end.
If you were locked up for 15 years, what kind of cell would you want to have?
I would like the old boy cell. He was locked for 14 years.
It was like a room.
It wasn't nice. His was nicer than her. Was it 14 years in that?
15.
But in that,
well,
that little tiny thing,
she got to pace around.
I don't know. Not that.
One of the reasons.
How quickly would you try to kill yourself?
Oh gosh.
Because you got clothes on, you could probably hang yourself from the bars.
I don't even want to think about that.
You'd rather think about 15 years in solitary confinement, or you could barely pace.
What kind of food they serving? Gazpacho. No, one of the reasons when I saw this movie and finished it, and I immediately thought of one of your favorite films, an Old Boy, and I was like, I don't know if this is too close to that story. I mean, it's definitely different.
It's pretty close,
but it's
very close.
It has a very similar kind of twist ending.
Very close.
And I wanted to get that's why I really wanted you to watch this film, because I wanted to get your take on it. This film was actually developed from a play that Denis saw.
Yeah.
And he was like, this play is amazing.
Yeah.
Can I buy the rights to it and make a movie?
Yeah.
And he did.
Just to be clear, I don't like all movies that include incest. Just to put it out there. I mean, But anyway,
you love Game of Thrones, right?
Well, I don't. I hate Game of Thrones. I actually, I watched the last season. I tried to watch the first 2 seasons, and it was like just, I don't know, more like a rubber stamp of like I've seen this, and I didn't like any of the episodes. I think what was that? Anyway, I didn't like Game of Thrones.
Okay, well, there's a lot of incest in that, so you're free of that carrying card.
Thank
only
you.
liking.
Thank you.
Media with that.
But I chose Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Mujeres!
Because I've loved Pedro for, I don't know, going on 20 years plus now at this point. And it's just, every movie that he creates is in a world of itself. There's always a strong theatrical, or I should say theater vibe to pretty much every one of his movies, where it might be the music, or it's a combination of the music, which feels very like, you're in Broadway basically, and the set itself also, and especially in the apartment, which a lot of the film is based. It literally looks like, like a setup of Broadway.
They turned this into a Broadway play.
Yeah.
For about a year and a half or so.
It didn't do so well.
It didn't do so well.
Yeah, because
but I would love to see
how are you going to replicate that? It's tough to replicate.
You're gonna get a motorcycle on stage.
Yeah, that's fair. It's gonna be a different one.
And apparently, another kind of tidbit on this is their Apple, HBO. Somebody's making a TV series out of this.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how they're gonna do that because
Pedro.
No, this takes place in the course of like a couple days.
Interesting. That's a fascinating turn of events.
Yeah, but
yeah. Why don't you hit me with what you got?
This film was a joy to watch. So I just want to say thank you for letting me cleanse the Incendies palate.
Yeah.
And just kind of going for something a little bit more.
Imagine if we chose Old Boy and Incendies, and just accidentally be like, "This is incest." Right?
The incest episode.
What's wrong with Stephen and Jonathan?
Yeah,
something's going on in South Florida.
No, so I'm glad that you chose "Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown." Like I said, this is Pedro's like breakout hit. This is kind of what put him on the map of he was popular in Spain, but this internationally said, oh, this is a director we need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And it was released in 1988, nominated for the Oscar Best Foreign Language Film. It's starring Carmen Maura, Julieta Serrano, and a very young Antonio Banderas.
That's right.
And the funny thing, I didn't read anything about this movie, do any trailer lookup or anything like that. And then when he came on the screen, I was like, that guy looks familiar. oh my gosh, it's Antonio Banderas. Yeah. And he was fantastic with the stutter. I didn't know he could be so funny.
Yeah, he's terrific.
He's terrific.
He's terrific in all Pedro's movies.
Yeah, they've collaborated a lot.
I have to point out, Chus Limprive is also in the film. She's the most repeated character or actress.
Candela?
She's the baggage woman who's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's been in 8 of his films. I love her to death. Like in the early films, like she's terrific. But yeah, like in Carmen Mora, for example, I love her.
She's in
terrific. She's in Volver. There was like a 16 or 18 year period for which they didn't work together.
Yeah, he was. What I read was she was wanting to be in his next movie, but she was a little bit too old for the part, and I think she kind of resented him for that for a little while.
There was a lot of resentment on the actual filming of this.
Oh yeah,
that was the creation of it. But they got back together.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they were a good combination.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Her expressions, the way that she delivered her lines, it was amazing. This film is very like a play on like film noir.
Yeah.
But with bright colors and
super bright colors.
It's almost like a farce. It's a play.
Yeah.
The wordplay in it is like. We talked about Incendies being like something that maybe you don't want to watch again right after. Right after this movie, though, I started it again because I felt like I missed.
Yeah,
I missed so much because you never knew where this plot was going to go. You're like, what is going on now? What is happening here?
1,000 different things happening at once.
Yeah. And it's chaos, but it's beautiful chaos. So box office was. It cost about $700,000 to make. So
oh wow,
yeah,
that's great.
I had to translate that like the pesos and whatever, but it made worldwide. It made 15 million.
Wow, that's interesting. In 88, that's terrific.
Yeah,
that's very well done, Pedro.
92% on Rotten Tomatoes, so basically almost the same.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like the basic synopsis of it. When Pepe Marcos' lover Ivan suddenly leaves her without any explanation, she embarks on a strange journey to discover why. On the way, she meets a variety of eccentric characters, including Ivan's son from a previous relationship, his fiancée, Marisa, and a Shiite Terracel who had been secretly holding her best friend, Candela, hostage. It's a film noir take on the romantic comedy.
it we're laughing because it's a comedy really when it comes down to it, because it's not like it's not like terrorists of Incendies capacity. It's a joyful, playful. I mean, even like the shootout scene at the end or towards the end, it's just playful.
Yeah,
it's all playful.
Both these movies, there's a journey, but this journey is a lot of fun to figure out and watch, and it's so set in its time.
Very much so, and the chaos you're speaking to, it's probably my favorite taxi scene of all time. Maybe a Taxi Driver. I'd have to go back and watch again.
But Taxi Driver. And I love in film how like it's just constantly like, for sake of convenience and storytelling, like that's the same cab that just pulls up.
Unbelievable though, and he's got in a sundry of items like alcohol, cigarettes, and things of that nature.
It even says "Thank you for smoking." in the cab.
Great music, and it's often. It's funny. I was part of this group that thought that was actually Pedro Almodovar, and it's a big misconception that the Taxi Driver was Pedro. And I was told that, I don't know, a long time ago. And when I looked up the trivia for this movie, I realized it actually isn't.
No.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He casts a lot of his family and people that related to into his movies. Like his brother was in this film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think his mother was the old lady news anchor.
Oh, really?
That's reading about the Shiite terrorist cell. Like, I was wondering about that. Like, why is this just a Spanish thing, or does like the old women read the news?
Yeah.
What's going on? But yeah, the way that this film opens up, we get an introduction of Ivan and how he is just this international ladies man.
Yeah,
I loved how they set that up, where he's just
with his voice,
and he's just walking by he's walking by a nun, he's saying all these things, like just how he could pick him up
in like the most clear way, like I could love you all night.
Yeah,
and then just like 10 different ways of saying it, and 10 different types of women.
I would have jungle fever with you. It's a little
overboard now these days.
But it was a great way, because we don't get a lot of the character of Ivan. We just know that he's just a walking penis.
That literal scene sets the entire movie, though. Yeah. You know exactly his character.
Exactly.
And you want him to lose instantaneously. And then Carmen comes along, and you're just like, I want her to win no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're two voice actors. They dub Hollywood movies into Spanish. And they know each other's voices very well.
Yes.
And the whole time where Ivan is about to embark to Stockholm with another woman, Carmen is spiraling downward, trying to find Ivan, trying to connect with him, trying to put sleeping pills in the gazpacho that he so dearly loves, because she wants just not to kill him, just wanted to make him stay.
That's literally what she says, to make him stay. And it's funny that you mentioned the very beginning of this, because that was one of my favorite quotes that is like less than 5 minutes in. And she's talking, Carmen is talking about having two of each kind on her terrace, and the
Noah's Ark.
The Noah's Ark, basically. And she was saying, but she couldn't save the couple, herself and Ivan, that she wanted to the most. And I was like, that is such a good way to start a movie.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's kind of like just telling you exactly what's going to happen, like after the fact. It's like she's narrating her own life, which is also an interesting aspect that I think of the movie. It's like, is this a play? Is this on Broadway? Has this already happened? Sort of thing. It's just like it kind of feels a little in time that she's like evaluating her own life while she's doing it, which I found very interesting throughout. But that quote really sat.
And I think it paints Pepa. I love the name Pepa.
Yeah.
Especially when Candela says it, Pepa. But I love how Pedro can write and create these very dynamic female characters.
I love it. Yeah.
And it's very hard to do for a male writer director to do.
He does it better than anyone else, I think.
He does a fantastic job.
He does it better than anyone else.
And there's this idea, with just the name of the movie, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. It's not just woman, it's women.
Oh,
it's
all of the women in this, all of them are breaking down.
Yeah.
mentally breaking down.
Yeah.
There's not a single woman in this that isn't. I mean, pretty much everyone is breaking down in this film.
Yeah.
In their own little,
Their own little
weird
ways.
way.
But yeah, we get a very clear picture of who Peppa is and how desperate she is to find Yvonne, and then how she just turns and says, "I don't want anything to do with you anymore."
Yeah, at the very end.
At the very
end. When she's going to the, she's like 2 hours ago. Yes, I probably would have gone. Like we would have hung out and we would have tried to make this up. He's like, now, no. But it was like extremely. Her acting in that moment is extremely definitive. And you're like, I believe her. Whereas before, in the entirety of the movie, she's like, she wants him back. Every one of her actions is like to get him back, and then like she's ripping out the phone, and then throwing it, and then trying to get the phone fixed. The things that she was throwing out of her window and hits the car below and the record with the head. Yeah. It was hysterical, and at that moment, I was like, "Oh man, what's going to happen?" I don't even know her name, but like are they going to get into a fight? Like this is like really escalating very well. I want to go back to like the original, like Ivan being a womanizer. A quote also originally was, "How many men have you had to forget?" First of all, it's such a great line. And the reply was, "As many as the women you remember." And I was like, damn, that's like Carmen and Yvonne were talking. I just thought that was a fantastic line.
Yeah.
He just clearly is a womanizer and doesn't remember any of these women. And I'm basically meaningless to you, kind of, to some extent.
The way that he writes this, I mean, it's the movie is so dense in dialogue. But that's why I had to watch it again. It was so meaty, and it is meaty. I feel like I was missing some of these lines and these and then watching it a second time, I picked it up a lot more. Because I knew what the motivations behind the characters were and what was kind of going to happen in the story.
Yeah.
But I can't get over the use of colors in this world.
Yeah.
Like blown away.
Yeah.
Blown away by his
cutting of tomatoes, the gazpacho, just the whole setting.
The mise-en-scene in this film is incredible.
Yeah. Some of the best.
And some of the shots, just like even like knock on the door and you got to check the door and it's that peephole thing.
That's such a cool scene, right? And Antonio Banderas, it's so good,
so brilliant. I loved everything about this one. I will read a quote from Letterboxd. I'll read a few quotes throughout this, but one of them was just one single sentence. Pedro invented colors.
He really did. It's because maybe there are films and directors like him, but he reminds me of like a Tarantino, like, and there's also his mixture of music into the film itself. It's very he has his own feel. It's like you watch a movie of Pedro's and you're like, this is Pedro.
Yeah.
Like clearly. Which I like.
You can tell. Like he's an auteur.
Yeah.
And he has that distinct style. The cast of characters in this movie, besides Pepe, that come into her life, we get Candela, who is a friend who has been kidnapped by a Shiite terrorist cell. We get Antonio Banderas and Marisa, his fiance, who come that are just looking for an apartment to rent. And Marisa says, "I don't like it. It's too high." It's the penthouse.
Immediately, immediately she walks in. It's too high.
It's too high. And we get to see their characters interact, and then we learn that Antonio Banderas is Ivan's son.
That's right.
Who he had another relationship with a lady who, once she gave birth, had to go into a mental hospital because Ivan left her.
Yeah.
So she had a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And
everyone.
Antonio Banderas' character is just a living reminder of what the relationship she lost with Ivan.
And he is himself,
he's
liking Ivan.
But the funny,
to some extent,
like father, like son. He's very bad at it, but he's trying to be a womanizer as well.
Yeah, he's not very good.
So we'll get to the gazpacho. We kind of told you that Pepe wanted to give it to Yvonne to drink, and she got sleeping pills and put, what, 25 to 30?
25 to 30, yeah, that's right.
The gazpacho. And while Marissa is kind of looking around the apartment and Pepe is talking outside, well, we see Candela almost commit suicide by jumping off the building. She tried to
jump off the building, yeah, and she caught herself and wanted to live, of course, and so they helped her back.
Real quick, one of my favorite quotes after that happened was Pepe saying, "Young people don't know how to fight for things. You think life is all pleasure. Well, it isn't. You have to suffer a lot."
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. You do have to suffer.
Yeah, I mean, every day is suffering.
Yeah.
Every day is suffering.
But while this happens, Marisa decides to help herself to some gazpacho. And she immediately passes out. And she
gives, for the whole movie,
she gives the best performance of passing out throughout the whole movie. She has some kind of fun dreams that
she did. Interesting. Yeah. I love those moments of what Pedro does, and like these, like, I don't know, those aren't really like scenes that are seen often in movies, where like she's having like a wet dream or an orgasm in her dream, and like they're communicating about what's happening. Yeah. And I love the dialogue that was actually existing when that was happening. It was so fun.
Yeah, and you know, I like that Pedro puts this scene in there, but it's not just to be funny and to have her pass out. Like it's going to come back later in the movie.
Yeah,
the gazpacho is there's still more left in the tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, we once Marissa is passed out, Antonio Banderas' character really makes a play on Candela, and he's very bad at it.
Yeah.
His initial thought when Candela is emotional and crying is to just lean in and kiss her on the lips. And
her reply is like, I don't remember her exact words, like, "You really are a kisser, huh?" or something along those lines. But it's like, they're like, first of all, I was watching with my wife, and she doesn't like to be that close to human beings. But like, they're like on screen like this close to each other, just talking. And I'm like, seems very close to be having a conversation.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, he did try to kiss his way into her heart, to say the least.
As soon as Marissa was passed out,
like,
there was no waiting around.
Yvonne, I am Yvonne Jr.
But yeah, this movie gets untangled even more when we get introduced to Yvonne's very previous lover, who's the mother of Antonio Banderas. She was in a mental hospital for how long?
I don't know.
A long time.
But she still seems like she should be.
Well, the thing is she...
Well, Yvonne just makes people crazy. Yeah.
She had it in her mission to get revenge with Yvonne, so she conditioned herself to be sane so she would get let out.
Yeah.
But she's not well.
Which clearly she indicates. That's while holding a gun, mind you.
Right. One of my favorite scenes, there's a lot of favorite scenes in these movies, but favorite scenes for me has got to be that when everybody's in the apartment.
Yeah.
The mother, what's her name? Gosh.
I don't remember.
She shows up with two police officers, and you're like, wait, did she call the police officers? And like, no, we just met on the elevator.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just hanging out here, of course. Yeah.
And we got Marissa passed out still.
On the terrace.
On the terrace. We have Antonio Banderas and Candela and Pepe.
And Candela's freaking out.
Candela's freaking out
because she thinks the cops are there.
The police are going to come
for her, like, specifically, and they're trying to calm her down
because she was using her house to host the terrace.
Yeah,
they were using her again, like all men use her.
So she's losing her brain.
But so the mother comes in. These two cops come in. They're questioning because Antonio Banderas had a scene earlier where he made a call to the police about the Shiite terrorist cells, and they traced the number because he stutters and he can't get the information off quick enough. And so they're following up on that call because they traced the number. The mother's there to confront Pepe, and find out where Yvonne is, and they decide to serve them gazpacho.
Yeah, well, the same gazpacho with 25 to 30 barbiturates. And so,
Oh, the telephone repairman also comes.
oh yeah, because the telephone was, was thrown out the window
Again.
Yeah, and pretty much, delightfully so. People are offered, as they might imagine, as you would have a guest, gazpacho.
It'd be rude to say no.
Yeah. So the cops think it's delectable. I love the fact that if we can get like an audio for this, but she was going through the ingredients.
I don't have the audio, but
she was going through the ingredients of what's in the gazpacho.
I have it right
her
here.
Her voice is like terrific, and she's like,
I will read it for you.
1 clove of garlic.
It's
3
tomate, pepino, pimiento, cebolla, un poquito de ajo, aceite, sal, vinagre, pan duro, agua. El secreto está mezclarlo bien. The secret is to mix it well.
Yeah. No mention of 25 to 30. But it's making me honestly like, you ever in the menu, the movie, people would like love to make that burger, or at least attempt to make that burger. Yeah. I actually want to make this. Do you like gazpacho, first of all?
I love gazpacho.
So I like gazpacho too. I kind of want to make this gazpacho just to see what it tastes like. Not with the barbiturates, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just a terrific scene of a meltdown of everything, like just coming together, coalescing.
Do you think soup should be cold?
I think soup can be cold, but do you think soup is cold? Like cold soup is not soup, though. Do you think? Unless it. Well, I guess if you had chicken noodle soup and it's cold, then it's still soup, right?
Well, there's an
gazpacho is gazpacho.
But is it soupy?
It's liquidy.
Could you?
But I don't think
soupy?
it's. What is a soup? I think it has to have like a broth base.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think a soup is.
So gazpacho is not a soup.
I would consider gazpacho.
Well, would you consider gelato ice cream?
I don't consider cocktail sauce soup either.
No?
No. I don't know how you are,
I mean, I like cocktail sauce.
No, I mean, would you consider cocktail sauce soup?
I've never gotten a bowl of cocktail sauce with a spoon.
Do you want to? We can go. We are like near water.
Yeah.
Maybe we can dip something in there. But yeah, I think gazpacho is gazpacho and soup is soup. I think broth based, whether it's vegetable, chicken, or meat based, would be the delineator here.
Yeah.
By the way, I just have to see pedantic. I think T-Rock is mentioning my use of the word pedantic. So there's 4 for you there, T-Rock.
There we go.
See you later today, by the way. Yeah, terrific movie overall. I mean, the gun shootout scene at the very end. Are you really checking your phone?
I'm reading another quote from Letterboxd. Okay.
Jeez.
This is part of the job here. One of my favorite quotes, or not quotes, reviews on Letterboxd is by this guy named Rudy. And he says, "This is the only film that matters. Try top a scene where an old lady sits on the back of a motorbike shooting at people with multiple guns in the middle of a car chase. You can't."
Yeah, that scene is hilarious because you could clearly tell that she's probably never held a gun. And also the fact that it looks pretty heavy and the trigger seems very hard for her to press. And so it's like this sort of thing, like you can see everything happening. And Pedro, who's not Pedro, the taxi driver with the blonde hair, is taking them through the streets, and they're just revving right in front of each other, which is hilarious. It is like that theatrical moment of like, this is that's why it's a fun movie, even though you're dealing with sometimes very intense not motives per se, but themes. It's fun throughout, and the colors are just like so interesting to me. And like, it's funny because I've been to Spain very recently, and the pharmacy scene that they have there, where she's trying to pick up sleeping pills when she
would you like a facial?
So funny because the woman is butting out behind the counter, and as she's asking for sleeping pills, and then two women actually put their head out like that, like seeing who is actually requesting the sleeping pills, which is funny. But
and she got the sleeping pills without. She's like, I don't have my prescription. I'll bring it tomorrow, but I need them. Yeah, it's like that doesn't happen today.
But
maybe in
1988 possibly does, or if you know somebody. But I find that scene interesting to compare to today, because I went to a pharmacy in Spain very recently, and it looked identical to that scene. Like nothing has changed in pharmacies.
Really?
Yeah, like absolutely nothing has changed in pharmacies in Spain.
Wow.
in the last 30 something years. Yeah, that was fun though.
Do you like to sit crisscross applesauce?
I do it a lot. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I sit on the floor a lot at home.
I can't. My hip flexors won't let me do that.
Yeah, it's probably something that you should do a little more often. Have you ever left a message on a tape machine?
A tape machine back in the day, of course.
Have you?
Yeah.
Did you ever like have fun things to say?
I'm sure I did. Maybe funny things to say, but I will. I grew up in a house that
That's good, man.
Had a tape.
That's good. Was it a big house?
Yeah, a very big house.
Wow, I grew up in a small house. We had a tape machine, but we had the whole family on the well, not my dad, but we had the whole family on the tape machine. So we would do like the Seminoles back in the day, which is very similar to your Braves had. So we started off, oh, I mean, clearly you couldn't see the hand movement there. It was a tape machine, and then we'd go, hi, you have reached the Stetson residence, and blah 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 blah, so on and so forth. But I love the old schoolness of having tape machines and the old
the technology in this movie of especially with Pepe trying to get a hold of Yvonne and just everything, all the technology failing around her.
Yeah.
And they can't this wouldn't happen today.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, all right, there you are. I need to call you.
Yeah.
One thing I with technology today, I was watching like a reel or a TikTok or something that, and it's like about like relationships and red flags.
Yeah.
And this young lady said, it's a red flag if you're in a relationship with a boy and you don't share locations with each other at all times.
Just like a boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah.
Relationship, that's weird. But I mean, people can do whatever they want. I don't care about. I mean,
I think that's a little bit.
I think saying what that person desires for their own relationship should be also applied to every other person who has a relationship. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That to me is just like, I don't know. Sounds like you have an insecurity with your own relationship that you need to have that. I myself, I didn't share my location until children existed, or child.
Okay.
And I was like, this clearly, we should probably share our location. This makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense in a marriage.
But I mean, tracking my wife is like, oh, she's at home. Oh, she's at home. Oh, she's at home. Oh, we're together driving our daughter to school. Oh, she's at home. Oh, she's at home. Oh, she's at home. And it's just like, are you dead? Are you okay?
Are you using it more as a safety thing?
It's more of, I guess, for her to see where I'm at. I mean, like if I'm running and there's an emergency and she needs to pick me up or something along those lines,
makes sense,
whether it's an emergency on one way or the other. But yeah, it makes total sense for us. We also have nothing to hide, but I don't think that's an argument for every other person. Some people like their, I don't know,
privacy,
solidarity.
And
why would you tell somebody what they should do in their relationship? Get the fuck out of here. But yeah, lovely movie. It's just every bit of it. Like there was also a scene in a variety of these in the apartment where I just felt like kind of like Hitchcock's Rear Window. Rear Window?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is? Yeah, and he's like, the man is watching his neighbors, and there's a variety of scenes that it felt like that. You could see some sort of influence there, but it's a joy of a movie. I love Pedro. I haven't seen his newest flick, but otherwise,
this makes me want to like just watch all of his movies.
That's what I did. I watched All About My Mother and Volvera, and I was like, what have I been missing? And then I just went back to the very beginning and I ripped through in like 2 weeks time, pretty much like one a day. And then they're all hits. Like Matador. Matador is just, what is it called? Bad Habits. It's basically centered around nuns and their bad habits.
Love that.
Or it might be Dark Habits, but nonetheless. Also has Chus Lemprive. Terrific. But overall, lovely.
Another couple of my favorite quotes in this film. Yeah. It's basically takes place in the cab while they're while they're chasing down the motorcycle.
Yeah.
And Pepe tells the cab driver, be careful, she's dangerous. And he's like, no lady's dangerous if you know how to handle her. What?
I mean, it's just so fun. And the ending is basically Yvonne is taking his crazy wife or crazy ex-wife or whatever she is. They're going on a jet plane, and a gun gets taken out, and Miss Carmen decides that she wants to save him.
Yeah.
And that was the moment it appears that she kind of snapped and was like, "I'm done with you, but I will save you to some extent." And she basically pieces out from there, and the movie ends.
Well, and she reveals that she's pregnant. No,
she is pregnant. Yeah, but yeah, interesting. Interesting tidbit.
That's when Marissa wakes up.
Yeah,
she missed the whole
Maybe
thing.
She's pregnant too.
Yeah. Another just couple things that I want to touch upon this movie.
Yeah.
Probably the best fake commercial you could ever put in a movie.
So I would agree. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to buy that product.
Yeah. So one of my questions that I didn't get to, I was like, what are your thoughts on like the actual actors doing commercials inside of a movie? Because I was like, this is terrific.
That's great.
Yeah, it's terrific.
So I'll break down the commercial if you don't remember it. I'm sure you do, but it's Pepe playing the mother of the Crossroads Killer.
Yeah,
and basically he is killed again, and the police show up at the door. But lo and behold, the mother of the Crossroads Killer has a very strong Clorox detergent that she can wash out the bloodstains, and the police go straight to the laundry room, pull out the clothes. There's no blood. You cannot pin this murder on the Crossroad Killers because she has that detergent.
I love the intricacy there, like the film in a film kind of deal.
Yeah,
it's so fun.
It's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite like commercials that you remember from
movies?
No, just from
childhood.
Just from childhood.
No, I often didn't watch commercials. Either just use the restroom or just watch around the house.
I have one that sticks out to me. That's
Alka-Seltzer plop plop fizz fizz. Actually, I do have one, but it wasn't from my childhood. I think it was like the Orbitz gum. Basically, it's like you liquor. What the French toast? That's probably my favorite commercial of all time.
My favorite,
or the bear for the Alaskan Salmon Company, basically, or I can't remember maybe it's a tuna company or I don't know what it is, but basically that fake bear.
Okay.
And the bear, it looks like it's eating salmon or drinking water or whatever it might be, and then a man comes to attack the bear to get the salmon, and then the bear, which it looks like a bear because it's shot from afar,
yeah.
And then the bear gets up and like starts doing like a ollie shuffle and then beats the crap out of the man. That's also probably my 1 and 2 favorite commercials.
So you remember some, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was later in life. I didn't really watch commercials as a kid, though.
Mine was a commercial, kind of a 90s commercial.
Yeah.
Where this mother is like looking for her box of tampons, can't find them. And she goes upstairs and finds it, and the brothers are have the box of tampons. She's like, "What are you doing with those?" And they're like, "Well, we saw on TV that with these you can go hiking, cycling, mountain climbing, horseback riding."
That's hilarious.
It's great.
Did you do that after?
Yeah.
Like, where can I get tampons? Because I want to go hiking. That seems like a lot of fun. Can you go paragliding too?
Paragliding too, yeah. It's fantastic.
Oh, it seems like an easy thing to buy. So why don't we rate them?
I'm comfortable with rating my movies now.
Okay. All right. So why don't you? I mean, do you want to go through yours? Or actually, can I? I haven't seen yours, so I'm not even gonna read this, and I won't read this either. So we can go through them together, okay?
Okay.
So I'm just doing my scores, and then you can do yours. So for Incendies, I thought the performances were great. The mother, I mean, just across the board in the somber type way, I thought it was just a lovely film. So I gave it an 85.
Fantastic. Let's see here. How do I get to mine?
There you go.
I gave my score an 85 as well for Incendies. I thought the performance from Nawal was amazing.
Excellent.
She carried the film.
Yeah.
And it was very, very impressive. Best quote.
Gave it an 85. I really liked the one-on-one, 1 + 1 = 1, in death quote. Terrific.
Yeah, that was kind of my quote as well for that. It was Yeah, death is never the end of the story. It always leaves tracks. And that's
Yeah, I
so
forgot the
true.
last part. That's probably a good one to have.
Yeah.
The score, I gave an 85. I like the repetition of Radiohead throughout, and just generally speaking, I mean, there's a lot of like actual silence in the film itself, without sound, without music, which was appreciated.
Yeah.
For the moments.
Yeah. Same with me. I give it an 80. I felt that the score was great, especially having Radiohead in there. Especially for like a lower budget movie, getting such a high profile song has got to be like pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Big part of the budget.
Editing, I gave an 80. I thought, it wasn't a whole lot of editing to actually happen to make this film, I guess, better, but it was, pretty longer shots, but it was good.
Yeah, I give it a 80 as well.
Nice. Screenplay writing, I thought was good. Not great, as it indicates that you.
No, I switched this up. Hold on.
Oh, gotcha. But I gave it an 80 as well.
Yeah, 80 as well for me. I thought it was very well written with the cross between the past and the present, and telling that story. It's there's not a ton of dialogue. I think Denis he kind of has this quote of saying like he thinks movies should be more about the visual and the sound and like I'm not trying to make a TV show with a bunch of dialogue and stuff like that.
That makes sense.
I appreciate that, but sometimes that leaves you kind of questioning what are the characters' motives, what's the story going on, and things like that. So 80 as well.
What about best directing?
85.
Same here.
Yeah,
same.
I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought the bus scene was incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought he directed the performances really well, just overall. Yeah.
And we, for the first time, we scored this 83.5 identically.
Yeah.
Overall, which has never happened. Performance on Women on the Verge. I gave it a 90. I just thought, just across the board, every single person was just terrific.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Just awesome.
I think just seeing Peppa's performance and how she reacts to certain things where you wouldn't expect, like she wasn't with the title of Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, you think of like hysteria and things like that.
Yeah.
And she was very, very powerful, strong, and astute in a lot of these situations.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though the world around her was crumbling.
Literally.
She did great. 90.
Same. Quote, just love the quotes I've already indicated, but just a really, really terrific quotes. I could choose any of them, but I gave it a 90 as well.
Same, 90. Another one of my favorite quotes that I want to highlight for this movie is kind of a twist on what people usually say about men and women.
Yeah.
Pepe says, learning mechanics is easier than learning male psychology. You can figure out a bike, but you can never figure out a man.
Yeah, that's probably true. And vice versa with women. I mean, we're just confusing to each other.
Exactly.
Terrific. The score, I really like I don't know, there's only a Tarantino and Pedro that I put in this, but I gave it a 90 as well. The setting was perfect. Yeah,
even this like the music within the film that when she's playing the record after coming back up to the apartment and not being able to get a hold of Yvonne.
Oh, so good.
So good. And I kind of wanted it to keep playing because it set the tone so well. And she just rips it out and throws it. Yeah. It's fantastic. Another we'll kind of get into that later, but score I gave it 90. Editing, I thought the movie was very well put together. I can't say that it was like a monumental feat of editing, so I gave it a good grade of an 80.
I gave it a 90. I like the way maybe like the editing even at the beginning of the film with the colors I just love, and the transitions were terrific to me, so I gave it a 90.
Fantastic. Screenplay writing, we both gave it a 95.
Pedro's writing just across the board is always terrific, but this one in particular, it's Broadway theater play on crack and for a film. It's terrific. I couldn't
the way that he
make it better, honestly.
The way that he can just like fit characters, even small characters, into a script, like the lady downstairs in the apartment who is
Juice. Yeah.
She can't lie.
Yeah.
It's part of my religion. Sorry, but I cannot tell a lie.
You're going to begin to love her and her characters in his movies. Watch all of them. She is absolutely terrific.
Oh, she's in more.
She's an 8.
Oh, that's the one.
That's the one. She's in 8 of his films. She's been used more than any other character.
She's fantastic.
She's unbelievable. I love her to death. She is.
Does she play the same character or different characters? Or different versions?
You're gonna have to watch. I would say she plays of a similar capacity, but not that. You have to watch more. She's terrific though. And then best directing, I gave it a 95 as well. I just think, again, kind of goes hand in hand with the editing. It was terrific.
Yeah,
I loved it.
90 for me. A's all around. This
in our first, I gave it an overall 92 and you a 90, so a 91. That's our first 90 plus score.
Wow.
You said, I think last week, how are we going to get a 90 score? And I was like, well, we could probably do this pretty easily, and why don't we go back to
our roots?
And here we are. But terrific. I have no idea what we're going to do next week, but nonetheless.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll leave our faithful viewers in suspense of what we choose. Maybe we'll post on Twitter, and maybe you guys can vote.
Polls? Are we going to do polls for our 3 followers on Twitter? No, how if you want to do our social media, please let us know, because we don't.
We could do a randomizer.
I don't know what that means, but
just pick some topics, put them in an internet randomizer, and see what comes out.
That seems to work. But anyway, it's been fun. We appreciate you.
Thanks for coming to this podcast, to our world,
building our world.
Look at all these colors.
Yeah, it's nice. I'll go out in the Florida sun.
All right, bye-bye.